All right, what up, what up? What's going on, Catch fam? Hope everyone's doing phenomenal on this late night Saturday. Gonna hop into a little bit of a special stream tonight. Gonna try and do a full mock draft. I'm just gonna do 8 teams. I'm trying to draft 8 teams. I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. You guys have been giving us some great feedback here at the Catch fam. Looking for, more and more early fantasy content. So instead of doing another Madden stream tonight, we're going to hop into this. Need to just double check my layout and everything and make sure I've got everything good to go here because I am kind of in a new setup. It looks like everything's good. So hit that like button on the way in, baby. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Go ahead and join the Catch fam. This is going to be fun. I'm going to do my best here to throw together 8 different teams. And if this goes well, I think tomorrow I'm going to do another one of these and do about 10 teams. But, this is just going to get the fantasy football conversation going. And something that we can start to do a little bit more of. So, yeah, I'm super pumped. Come on in. Come join the live chat. Hit that like button. Like I said, join the Catch fam if you're new here. And let's have some fun. Let's talk some 2022 fantasy football. Let's go, baby. I'm pumped. All right. Let's start this draft. Yes, I'm sure. Ooh, I'm going to turn that sound off. We don't need any of that. All right. I'm team 1, apparently. The Catch 8 team. Okay, so I'm still going JT, number 1 overall. We don't have much to talk about here, right? With all the mock drafts we've done with you guys, consensus has generally been JT. I don't think there's too much to really get into here, right? We've seen some drafts where Dalvin Cook has gone. We've seen some where Derrick Henry has gone. We've seen one where Najee Harris has gone. That's it. We're having a little bit more discussion and really the past 24 hours about a potential Javonte Williams pick here. But I'm going JT. Right? Just a monster season. Just absolutely crazy. I mean, we all know what he did last season, right? But naturally, there will probably be regression next season. But that's okay, man. You got to look at the stats. This is your RB1 by a long shot last season. We'll take JT number 1. Okay. Team 2 on the clock, baby. Team 2 on the clock. It's tough, man. I think you stick to the running back position here. You might have some teams who want to go receiver early, who maybe want to go with the Cooper Kupp here, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams. But I think Team 2 for most leagues is easily going to be a running back still. So I'll go King Henry. We'll go Derrick Henry here. I still think, listen, a lot of people out there still worried about injury of Derrick Henry. I 1,000% get it. We finally saw the season where he missed significant time, right? I get it. But beforehand, really extreme durability, right? You can't even count on your fingers how many missed games he had before 2021. But we finally saw a season that everyone was scared to see, but still almost rushed for 1,000 rushing yards. Double-digit touchdowns. Obviously, we know he's not going to be very involved in the receiving game. That's not how he gets it done, but he doesn't need to be involved in the receiving game. I think come draft time, you could see a Javonte Williams number 2 here, an Austin Eckler, maybe a Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, but I still think most fantasy owners are going to be willing to pull the trigger on Derrick Henry at number 2. All right, let's move on to number 3. Hey, man, in light of the past 24 hours or so, listen, call me crazy, man, but for the sake of this mock draft, I'm going to go Javonte Williams here. We're seeing a ton of buzz about Javonte Williams, a ton of hype. I have talked about this all off-season long. The closer and closer we get to true mock draft season, the closer and closer we get to actual fantasy drafts, Javonte Williams will be in the top 6. I've said this all off season long. He is moving higher and higher up on draft boards. We know that Melvin Gordon is now expected to sign with the Ravens. Might happen, it might not happen. It's been a crazy offseason. Who the hell knows? But that essentially makes Javonte Williams your clear-cut number one. Now, historically, talked about this earlier. Our boy Ronald brought this up, right? The Broncos over the past couple of years have not had a true clear-cut RB1. So if you have a little bit of hesitation there, I get that. But still, he's going to see an increased workload. And there's so much optimism around the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson, obviously an upgrade at quarterback. Great receiving core. New head coach. And he had a great rookie season, right? 903 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 316 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns, 43 receptions, 53 targets. So you're getting good production in the passing game, and that was with a 50-50 split, right? Listen, I think Javonte is easily going to be creeping up to the top 4 in most fantasy leagues come true mock draft season. So I'll take him happily here at number 3. Jerry, what's going on, baby? What's going on? John, I've been listening to Kanye's interview on Drink Champs. He's a really smart guy. Yeah, I like that interview a lot. I watched it live, most of it at least. You know, Kanye is my guy, man. Kanye is my guy. So he did say there's some pretty smart takes, some very Kanye takes in that interview. I like that interview a lot, man. So shout out to Kanye. If you ever see this, Kanye, I love you. That's a good spot for Javonte. I 1,000% agree. I 1,000% agree. All right, moving on to Team 4. This is a spot where I still think you could see a lot of running backs going. Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon. I like this bunch as the next 3 running backs, but I also think you could easily see a receiver go here. I did not mean to do that. We're going to change that. My bad. I'm going to take a receiver here. I'm going to take Cooper Kupp off the board. We've seen Kupp go pretty early in the mock drafts that we've been conducting with you guys. And, I want to try and put together, like I said, 8 different squads here. So for the sake of this mock draft, I'm going to go Cooper Kupp at 4 overall, the first receiver off of the board. Then I'm going to bounce back to a running back here. I'm going to take Austin Eckler off the board. Listen, I really think that this next tier of running backs is pretty straightforward, in my opinion. I think you see Austin Eckler and Najee Harris go off the board. Najee Harris going to be a really hot name because of the youth involved, right? Durability is going to be there more than likely. A great rookie season, in talks for offensive rookie of the year, 1,200 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns, 467 receiving yards off of 94 targets, 74 receptions, 3 touchdowns. A great rookie season. We know that Big Ben is not there. There's some concerns. I 1,000% get it. We don't know what this offense will look like with our guy, Mitch Trubisky there, Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins at the quarterback position. Will they draft a quarterback? Who knows? Listen, maybe that benefits Najee Harris. So I think Najee Harris could easily go anywhere, literally from picks 1 through 6. I don't think he'll be on the board past that in any fantasy leagues next season. But not to skip over a boy, Austin Eckler, RB2 in both PPR and standard last season. So don't get me wrong. I think Eckler could go anywhere between 1 and 5, similar to Najee Harris. So I don't think he'll make it past the 6th pick by any means. But a phenomenal season last year. 911 rushing yards, 647 receiving yards, 94 targets, 70 receptions, 8 receiving touchdowns, and 12 rushing touchdowns. Just a monster season. And he somehow only missed 1 game, but he was banged up at times last season for sure. So when you look overall, right, 1 game all season long, under double-digit fantasy points, and just under at 9.5, right? And I guess you could say 2 because he did not play in Week 16. But nonetheless, a phenomenal season. Little bit of injury concern here with Austin Eckler. So I think some owners, listen, if you have injury concerns about a Derrick Henry or an Austin Eckler, you're probably going with Javonte, Najee Harris. Little bit more youthful, obviously, between those two than Henry and Eckler. A little bit more veteran-esque and slight history of injury over the last year or so, right? JT also pretty youthful. as well. But I just don't think he'll be there past pick 1 or 2 coming in his 3rd season as well. Pick 7. It's interesting, right? There's a lot of running backs I like here. Dalvin Cook, I still think is probably in your top 10 easily, right? CMC, he could see anywhere go between your pick 6, pick 14, right? You guys know I love my boy Joe Mixon, but for the sake of this mock draft, I'm going to go receiver here. I'm going to take Justin Jefferson off the board. You guys know how bullish I've been on JJ all offseason long, and really just to give some diversification between some of these squads, I'm going to go JJ here, and really just a phenomenal season. 1,600 receiving yards, 10 receiving touchdowns. I just think such an underrated player from a fantasy perspective and from a real NFL perspective as well, right? Real life football perspective. So I really like JJ as my wide receiver too, moving into next season with Devonta Adams having a change of scenery, Tyreek Hill having a change of scenery. And don't get me wrong, I still love both those guys, but I was arguing JJ as wide receiver 2 before those moves even happened. Easily at least wide receiver 3. So I love JJ here for our Team 7. Mayday, what up, baby? What up, what up? What's going on, bro? Appreciate you stopping by, man. What's going on, baby? What's going on? All right, Team 8. Let's go back to running back, right? I'm going to go Joe Mixon here. I am personally very bullish on Joe Mixon, okay? You guys know this, right? I mean, RB3 in standard. Let's take his picture. Look at that. Joe Mixon's in your face. It's in your face. RB4 in PPR. I just think slightly underrated overall last season. I mean, look at this stretch, right? One game between weeks 1 and 9 with under double digits, right? And he kind of had this stretch here. A little banged up too. We saw Samaje Perine make some noise, right? I get it. But I'm just bullish on the Cincinnati Bengals offense. They're just on fire. I think a lot of the momentum will carry in to next season. They've revamped that offensive line. I mean, you guys know how I feel about Burrow. You guys know how I feel about Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. So, listen, I think Joe Mixon, easily a top 8 pick. And I think he's a steal around pick 8 as well. So, for the sake of this mock draft, let's do something. Let's go with a little stack here. Let's take Jamar Chase here. Let's go with the Bengals stack. Let's take Jamar Chase in his sophomore season. Finished as wide receiver 3 in standard scoring last season. Wide receiver 5 in PPR last season. 1,400 receiving yards, 13 touchdowns, 128 targets, 81 receptions. I won't be surprised if we see some natural regression out of Jamar Chase. I won't be surprised if we see those numbers elevated to some degree, right? Listen, I feel great about this Bengals offense. I would love to have this stack of Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase. All right, bouncing back here to Team 7. Let's go ahead and take Dalvin Cook off the board. Listen, that's kind of interesting. We got I didn't even mean to do that. We got a Vikings stack, you know. I'm not as bullish on the Vikings offense, but realistically, you know, outside of injury for Dalvin Cook, right, there's really no reason to not want that stack between JJ and Dalvin Cook. Those are going to be 2 extremely productive players. And listen, I'm not bullish on the Vikings offense. I just don't feel I feel about the Bengals offense about them. So still think that's a phenomenal stack. All right, Team 6 here. Let's go ahead and take Devonta Adams off the board. He should not be on the board any longer. Listen, I'm not personally concerned about Adams moving to the Raiders. Like, yes, Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Derek Carr, but Derek Carr is still a great quarterback, and they have prior chemistry. So, wide receiver 2 in PPR last season. I mean, just an absolute monster. 1,500 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns. I mean, yeah. Devontae, listen, I love Kupp. I love Jefferson. You know, this is more of a strategic take between, you know, the stack of Mixon and Chase. So, yeah. Adams should not be on board. He should be off. So, there you go. All right. Moving back to Team 5. Right. Let's go with a little stack here. Let's go with Austin Eckler and CMC. Listen, I'm as hesitant as anyone about drafting CMC, but at the same time, I mean, I was a CMC owner last year. I had the number 1 overall pick in my primary league. So, I don't think I'll personally be taking CMC because I just am petrified of what happened to me last season. But at the same time, man, if he's healthy, you know what he's going to do. I mean, listen, this is a game he got injured. This is his first game back. This is a game he got re-aggravated. So if you take away the injury riddle games, right? 27-24, 13-26-24. Like, still phenomenal. I think this game against New England was, like, the first game in, like, years that he had, like, 3 years. Okay, maybe not. Week 2. Was the first game since week 2 of 2019 that he had under 17 fantasy points, which is just ridiculous. I mean, it's only one game. That's literally every other game other than week 13 in Washington since week 2 of 2019. He had at least 20 fantasy points. Just ridiculous. So, listen, I if you don't want to draft CMC, I totally get it. Totally get it. But for the sake of this mock draft, we'll add him to Team 5. These are some nice-looking teams. All these teams will probably look relatively nice. Like I said, only doing 8 teams because I am trying to draft 8 entire teams by myself. So obviously these teams will be a little bit better overall because there's only 8 teams involved. But this is really just to have some fantasy conversation with you guys and kind of hang out and everything and put together a fun little mock draft. So, Ronald, what up, baby? What up? What's going on, broski? All right, bouncing back here to Team 4. Could go running back here. You got Swift hanging around, Kamara hanging around, Chubb hanging around. Let's go with the double receiver stack. Let's take Tyreek Hill off the board over there, down south in Miami, right? Change of scenery. I mean, just imagine having the consistency of a Cooper Kupp and then that big play availability at your wide receiver 2 position or maybe even your flex position, depending on how the rest of this team goes, right? I mean, I can't. That's a great stack between those two, right? Because you know what Kupp's going to deliver on a weekly basis, and then having that big play possibility, and not really having to worry about Tyreek Hill potentially having some of these single-digit games, right? Or maybe even if you're concerned overall just about the change of scenery with Tua throwing him the football, right? Having Cooper Kupp as that security blanket kind of alleviates some of that pressure. All right, let's take a look at Team 3 here. Let's go ahead and let's add a second running back to the squad. Go double RB here. Take DeAndre Swift off the board. Someone who I think was playing at an elite level, then missed these 4 games at a very important time in the season. Played very poorly in Week 17. Very sad to see, considering that Seattle was awful against the run last season, but I would imagine still relatively banged up, right? But still finished out the year pretty well against Green Bay in Week 18. So, listen, I kind of like the Lions offense. A lot of you guys have kind of grilled me for this, but we still have to look at bad offenses that might not be winning a lot of football games that are still very fantasy relevant. And I think that the Lions are going to be very, very fantasy relevant next season, right? You don't have to like Jared Goff at all. Totally get it. You don't have to like that receiving core with TJ Hawkinson even. You don't have to believe in this team building, in the trenches and bolstering that offensive line potentially through the draft. But at the end of the day, if there's anyone you can believe in on that offense, it's DeAndre Swift. So I would love to start my team with both Javonte and DeAndre Swift there. All right, let's go ahead and take Stephon Diggs off the board here. Just too much consistency overall, man. I mean, you know what you're going to get. You know he's staying in Buffalo. You know Josh Allen is throwing the football there. His boy Diggs, only 2 games last season, full PPR under double-digit fantasy points. So, listen, you know what you're getting in Diggs. You're getting consistency. You guys know I love consistency. If Henry and Diggs are fully healthy next season, this is a very, very consistent squad here for Team 2. All right, bounce it back to Team 1, who got JT. There's a lot of direction you could go here, right? Could take Nick Chubb off the board, but let's go ahead and take Debo off the board, causing a little bit of drama over the past 24 hours or so. Apparently deleting all his Niners posts, taking the Niners out of his bio. It is time for these receivers to get paid. They can all thank Davante Adams. I won't be surprised. Oh, look, it's even up here. Wide receiver Deebo Samuel removed his team profile picture on Follow the Niners, deleted over 80 posts from his Instagram account. It is notable with Samuel entering the final year of his rookie contract 2022. Receivers around the league are getting paid handsomely. Listen, when you go back, 2019, disappointing. I mean, not really, actually, for a rookie. Really not that disappointing. 802 receiving yards. Receiving touchdowns, right? I would say 2020, but he was injured, right? His least productive fantasy season at the end of the day, right? 2021, which is absolutely freaking insane. Okay, I don't know why this doesn't have, maybe because he's a receiver, doesn't have his rushing yards on there, but listen, if he could somehow, like in the 8-man league, this is completely possible, right? I know a lot of us play, at least 10, 12 teams in our leagues, but in an 8-man league, if you could stack JT and Deebo, it's completely possible. But listen, regardless of the drama, I like him the most on the Niners. I do think that he will be running the football less in 2022 with the departure of McDaniels to the Dolphins, but nonetheless, he's going to be the focal point of the Niners offense as long as he's on the Niners. And with what he did last season, I mean, come on, man. He should not be. I mean, obviously, this is a little bit different in an 8-man draft where some of these guys in most leagues are going to still be in the first round, especially 12-team drafts and everything, 14-team drafts and everything. So, but nonetheless, Deebo, time to be off the board, right? All right, sticking with this same team, let's go ahead and let's do that kind of bounce back method. Let's go back to the running back position. Let's take Nick Chubb off the board here. I think is a really interesting fantasy player. Still a top 15 back in PPR. Sees a lot more value in standard if you do play standard. Gets in the end zone quite a bit. But still really top 15. He missed 1, 2, 3, or just 3 games last season. So, listen, if you're in the sentiment that the Browns offense is going to be better with the addition of Deshaun Watson, whether he is suspended or not, then you should feel good about drafting Nick Chubb, right? I mean, he has shown extreme fantasy consistency ever since his rookie season. At least 8 touchdowns, 8 rushing touchdowns every single season, right? 2020, a little bit higher, 12. Only 1 or 3 receiving touchdowns in his career, but hopefully, if Deshaun Watson really does bring Deshaun Watson-esqueness to that offense, that maybe some of those receiving numbers will go up, but I do think Kareem Hunt is more of the receiving back on this team. I think that Nick Chubb is an interesting fantasy player who's, quite frankly, being kind of overlooked. So I think it's a very good start for this team. All right, let's go ahead, come over to Team 2, and let's take a tight end off the board. I'm going to go Mark Andrews here as the first tight end off the board, okay? Number 1 PPR scoring, number 1 in standard scoring last season. Just had a monster year, 1,300 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns. The thing, he did it with Lamar. Him and Lamar have great chemistry. Lamar loves to find him in the end zone. But he also did it with Tyler Huntley. Like, he's not a stoppable tight end right now. He might be slowly becoming the best tight end in the league. Okay, love Travis Kelce. Got nothing wrong with Travis Kelce. He's going to see a lot of targets this coming season with Tyreek Hill out of there. But I feel pretty damn good about Mark Andrews being the first tight end off the board. Ronald, Deebo. Deebo unliking the Niners, man. So, see what happens there, bro. All right, Team 3 hanging around here. Listen, man. Alvin Kamara is a really interesting player as well. Obviously, we know there's a little bit, they're not showing it here, but some legal issues going on, all that. I think his court hearing is this month, if I'm not mistaken, but still a top 8 player in PPR last season. Let's go with a triple running back squad here. Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara. Listen, man, if this draft can work out for this team, these would be 3 absolute monsters to start your team with. Could probably only get this done in an 8-team league. All right, bouncing back to team 4. They have no running back. I would be very scared if I had a running back on my squad. And I'm going to take Aaron Jones off the board here, okay? Listen, another guy who I think is being underlooked, right? Top 10 PPR, top 15 in standard scoring. Listen, not the best season, okay? I get it. A little bit of regression overall. But we know that the Packers love to run the football. I think that A.J. Dillon obviously is going to see a large uptick in that offense. But he did have his best season overall from a fantasy standpoint in the receiving game. Not his best overall in terms of receiving yards, but the most receptions and the most scoring touchdowns or receiving touchdowns overall. So I still think you're going to get a lot of consistency, and he's someone that you can feel pretty good about overall. So we'll add him here as the first RB for Team 4. What up, Spence? What up, baby? What up? Aaron Jones is not overlooked in my opinion. I like Dylan a lot. Yeah. Hey, man, from a true Packers fan, you might know better than me. You might know better than me. But I still think at some point we got to take a look at Aaron Jones. He's right there in that tier for me with Zeke and Antonio Gibson, probably David Montgomery, Cam Akers as well. And you guys know that I feel really good about Leonard Fournette and James Conner too. So yeah, listen, like I said, probably some natural regression there, and Dylan's going to get more work as well. I think Aaron Jones was the worst decision the Packers made. Do you mean in terms of drafting him or in terms of extending him? All right, on to Team 5 here. They have no receiver. Okay. Could go tight end here. We could take a quarterback off the board. We could take another running back. Let's go ahead and take CeeDee Lamb off the board. Man, I think CeeDee Lamb, right after you got Kupp, Jefferson, Chase, Adams, Hill, Diggs, Samuel, this is the receiver I feel the best about. Listen, I do think last season was a little bit underwhelming, right? A little bit disappointing. But Cooper out of there, not that Cooper was fully healthy last season. I just feel good about CeeDee Lamb. And he still had a great season last year. But I don't know. Sometimes if you got the conviction, like I always say, CeeDee's my next guy. This team needs a receiver. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. And I do think he sees an uptick in targets overall next season. And you guys know that I feel really good about him overall. All right, Team 6, pretty even here. We got running back and a receiver. Let's go ahead and let's take Travis Kelce off the board. Let's take a second tight end. Let's get that tight end trend going pretty early. I do think that whether Kelce goes first or Andrew goes first, I think these are your top 2 tight ends off the board. Not a lot to discuss here. I mean, tight end 2 last season, phenomenal as always. Should see an uptick in targets with the departure of Hill overall. So, yeah, definitely my second tight end, if not my first. All right, let's take a look here. We got the Viking stack, Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook sitting here. You could go a lot of direction here. You really could. Let's go ahead and listen. This might be early, but let's take Leonard Fournette off the board, okay? RB6 in PPR, RB10 in standard, okay? Could go Zeke, could go Gibson, could go Saquon Barkley, Montgomery, Akers, Connor. Listen, he's back with the Bucks. Rojo's out of there. Brady loves him. Great chemistry last season. Very consistent last season. Missed the last 3 games, or else I think he would have finished much higher, closer to your RB4 and PPR. So, listen, 84 targets last season, 69 receptions, 454 receiving yards. Saw a lot of work in the receiving game. Looked really good in the receiving game as well. So, I think for this team right here, we have extreme consistency and upside in Jefferson. Dalvin Cook, maybe a little bit of concern around injury, but still we know what Cook can get done. Adding Fournette is a really good blend right there. All right, moving on to this next team, we've got the Bengals stack, Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase. So you can really go in a lot of different directions here. We still got Zeke hanging around. We still got Saquon, Antonio Gibson, Cam Akers. A lot of running backs that I like. Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins we'll talk about tonight. Melvin Gordon goes to the Ravens. We'll see what happens there. James Conner, I feel great about. Elijah Mitchell, too. The receivers, we got A.J. Brown. Hopkins hanging around. Deontay Johnson, DK Metcalf. Mike Evans. Where is Chris Godwin? I don't really like where he's at in these rankings. Right? You could go tight end here. George Kittle, still kind of in this high tier. Darren Waller, you could argue as well. But let's take a QB off the board. Let's take the first QB of the night. Let's take Josh Allen, baby. Just imagine having, or wow, I can't talk. Just imagine having your QB1, Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase as well. You know, two phenomenal pieces of a phenomenal offense last season, and then a phenomenal quarterback. And now you can bounce back and get any position you want, whether it's running back, tight end, receiver, whatever you want to do here. So there's a lot of different directions you could go. But let's go with another upside player similar to Jamar Chase. Although we see a little bit less time overall, a little bit more inconsistency in terms of injuries with A.J. Brown. Let's go ahead and take him off the board. I'm not in love with the pick, but I think for this team that has a lot of consistency and pieces from really good offenses, A.J. Brown is a nice fit here. Let's see. Little debate around Aaron Jones. Packers are going to pay it. Our front office are clowns. They're good at drafting QB, so I'll give them that. Oh, yeah. Common frustration for Packers fans, I'm sure. All right, on to Team 7. A lot. I like this team. Jefferson, Cook, and Fournette, a lot of different direction that this team could go. But let's go ahead. Let's add another receiver. Let's add DeAndre Hopkins, take him off the board. I do think that he's being slightly undervalued. I know, listen, a rough season last year, but if he could come back healthy, he really was playing well. Only 2 games last season that he played in where he had under double-digit fantasy points. So, listen, I think Hopkins could go, looking at the receivers that are available, I think Allen could go in front of him. I think Johnson could. Maybe McLaurin, Evans, Metcalf, and Chris Godwin, and even Jalen Waddle I could all see going before Hopkins, but I do think that you'll have a lot of drafts where Hopkins is kind of right in that tier. So we'll take Hopkins off the board here. All right, back to this team. You got a running back, a receiver, and a tight end. So pretty even overall team, right? We could go with a quarterback here, but let's take another running back off the board. Let's take Zeke off the board. Listen, I get it, right? Tony Pollard's there. A lot of people are concerned about Zeke. Saw some regression, maybe you could argue. But I really don't have any beef with what we saw out of Zeke last season. In PPR, your RB7, standard RB6. Listen, 1,000 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, 65 targets, 47 receiving yards. His second worst year overall in terms of receiving. I'm not concerned about what we saw out of Zeke last season. I'm not. I get it. A little bit more tread on the tires, but the Cowboys love Zeke. They're going to use him. We're probably going to see more of Pollard. I get it. But you just can't ignore the numbers, man. So I don't have any beef with Zeke. And I like him on this team, too. This is a really good team. Harris, Adams, Kelsey, and Elliott. So, time for Zeke to be off the board, in my opinion. All right, back to Team 5. We got 2 running backs and a receiver. A lot. You could go with another running back here. You could go with a tight end. There are a lot of good running backs that I like here. But I'm going to move down the board here. I'm going to take Chris Godwin off the board. We'll go 2 RBs, 2 receivers on this team. Listen, I feel good about Chris Godwin. I feel good about Mike Evans as well. I feel good about the Buccaneers receiving core with Brady back overall. It's going to be an explosive offense in a very bad division. I think they're going to put up a lot of fantasy points overall. You have a couple games sprinkled in here, single-digit fantasy points, but only 3 of them. Okay, 1,100 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. Listen, slightly disappointing on the season. He has never broke double-digit touchdowns, so I get it. But I like Chris Godwin. I like Mike Evans as well. I think it's a good fit for this team. Moving on to team 4. Let's shake it up a bit. Let's take another tight end off the board. Let's get Kittle out of here. Listen, Kittle missed a lot of time last season. A lot of time. But still your tight end 4 in both PPR and standard. Okay, I mean, I guess he only missed, 1, 2, or 3 games. It felt like a lot more than that, right? But gosh, listen, some really bad performances in there too. But just, you can't ignore some of these games. 39 points, 34 points. Plenty of double-digit fantasy games overall. I mean, listen, Kittle's that dude. He's scary. I get that he has inconsistent games. He missed time last season, but you just can't ignore what he can get done. All right, team 3 is on a running back frenzy. We got Javonte, DeAndre, and Alvin Kamara. So a lot of different routes. We could go another quarterback here. Looking at running backs, there's a lot of running backs that I like. But I think that this team would more than likely show up in wide receiver 1. So we'll take Keenan Allen off the board. Top 10 in PPR last season, right? 1,100 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. I think Keenan Allen is criminally underrated year after year after year. Just look at these numbers, man. A little bit more shaky early in his career, but these are really not bad numbers his first 3 seasons. Then obviously, no injuries in 2015, and obviously a lot of time missed in 2016. But really, since 2017 moving forward, one of the most consistent fantasy receivers. And listen, I think the Chargers offense is going to be phenomenal this coming year. They were great last season as well. I think the Chargers defense being improved is really going to help this team as well. So just a great number 1 receiver who's going to offer you a ton of consistency. All right, moving on to team 2. We got our RB, a receiver, and a tight end. Let's continue the trend of different position every single round. And let's take another Charger off the board. Let's take Justin Herbert. A lot of people are going to argue that Mahomes should be here. But listen, this is your QB2 from last season. A very nice jump in his sophomore campaign. 5,000 passing yards, 38 passing touchdowns, 15 picks. Picks could go down a bit. 3 rushing touchdowns as well, 302 rushing yards. I mean, listen, we love our guy, Jay Herbert, here at the Catch. I think QB2 is very, very, earned at this point, right? People are concerned about Patrick Mahomes. You have missing pieces out of that offense, right? Don't get me wrong. Do you think that Mahomes should be QB3, QB4? But I'll take Justin Herbert as the second quarterback in this draft. All right, coming back to this team here, which is, officially labeled as the Catch, but all these teams are mine. We got JT, Debo, and Nick Chubb here. So let's go ahead and let's take another receiver off the board. You could go Deontay Johnson, Scary Terry, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf. You know what? There are a lot of running backs that I like here. Antonio Gibson still hanging around. David Montgomery, James Conner. We'll take David Montgomery off the board. And then, we get another pick. So let's go with another receiver here. Ooh, it's tough, man. Let's stick with the Bucks. So looking at David Montgomery, right, missed a lot of time last season. So I think it's a good fit here because you got JT, you got Nick Chubb, right? So this is your third running back. Obviously, this would probably only happen in an 8-team league. But listen, when David Montgomery plays, he is a monster. Okay, I've always loved David Montgomery. Okay, I loved what he did in 2020. I really loved what he did in his rookie campaign as well. Okay, and really for the amount of time he missed last season, did not have a bad season. I mean, he missed 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 4 games. It felt like longer probably because he was on most of my fantasy teams, but still a top 20 running back in both PPR and standard, right? 849 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns, 301 receiving yards off 42 receptions. I got nothing bad to say about David Montgomery other than maybe he's on the Bears and the Bears suck. But Mike Evans, on the other hand, we just talked about the Buccaneers offense, and really overall coming out of last season, he was the better receiver in comparison to Chris Godwin. He also played more than Chris Godwin, but I think Chris Godwin probably gets more receptions. Mike Evans probably sees more red zone work. Just over the past 2 years, 27 touchdowns. Brady trusts him in the end zone. Brady is back. You can easily argue that Evans should have gone here over Godwin. I won't argue against it, right? But he should not be on the board any longer just based on his touchdown production, right? But still, one of the most undervalued fantasy receivers, probably over the last 7 years. I mean, he just, year after year, we let Mike Evans slide and slide. And as long as he stays healthy, which he does, I mean, he's barely missed any games in his career. Listen, Brady loves him. Brady trusts him. That offense is going to be good. That division is awful. I love Mike Evans being added to this squad. All right, team 2, you've got a stud at each position. You probably need to add another running back. There's a lot of direction you could go here, but let's take Antonio Gibson off the board. Still a top 12 running back last season in both PPR and standard scoring formats. Some injuries. That backfield is not bad. He got McKissick. Almost went to the Bills, which would have been interesting, but is back with Washington. Patterson, made a little bit of buzz as a rookie, right? Listen, you have some, underperforming games, under double-digit fantasy points. I get it. But still, 1,000 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns. You saw that regression. Very, very, very bullish going in 2021 on Antonio Gibson with those 11 rushing touchdowns that he had in his rookie season. You're hoping to see that improve. The rushing yards improved. You got more targets, more receptions. Hopefully, this offense is a little bit better. I don't know. They got Commander Carson. I don't know how much it's going to help, but nonetheless, still running back who should be off the board here. All right. Moving on to team 3, they got a lot of needs other than running back, right? A lot of direction he could go, but let's go ahead and take a receiver off the board. You could go Deontay Johnson, go Scary Terry, DK. You guys know I feel very, very good about T. Higgins. Jalen Waddle I'd probably put in this same tier as well. Let's take DK Metcalf off the board. I do think we're still underrating DK Metcalf with the departure of Russell Wilson. I get it. It's Drew Lock. I get it, man. But listen, DK statistically should be respected in fantasy. Okay? Listen, still didn't hit that 1,000-yard receiving mark, but 12 touchdowns. He played with Geno Smith last season at points, okay? He played without Russell Wilson at points last season. Statistically, at least 100 targets in the last 3 seasons, okay? At least, we'll go the last 2 years, at least 75 receptions in the last 2 years. A little bit less than his rookie campaign, which is fine, right? But statistically, he should not be last. I mean, he's just falling and falling in our mock drafts that we've been conducting with you guys, with the Catch fam. So, listen, I get the concern, but at a point, you got to look at his productivity and just take him off the board, right? So let's move on. All right, guys, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new to the Catch fam. Come join. Come hang out, man. Come get in the fantasy conversation. Hop in the live chat. Chat, what's going on, baby? Let me know what's up, man. Ronald, Spence, Jerry, what's going on, boys? I hope you guys are enjoying, this little mock draft we're throwing together tonight. All right. Moving on here, we got 2 receivers, a RB and a tight end. Let's go ahead and take another running back off the board. You could go Saquon here. You could go Cam Akers, Josh Jacobs, and James Conner and Elijah Mitchell are kind of the next tier that I have. Let's go Saquon. Okay, listen. I'm worried about Saquon. I get it. But similar to DK, at a point, you just got to take him off the board. The last 2 seasons have not been good. They have not been good. Okay, the Giants starting to bolster that offensive line. It's a risk, but at a point, you just got to take him off the board. So we'll just leave it at that. And we'll move on to Team 5. 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a lot of direction that you could go here. Let's look at tight end and let's take Darren Waller off the board. I think this is a very solid team overall. Looking at Waller, missed some time last season. A relatively disappointing season. You probably drafted him as your tight end 2 or 3 last season, right? You probably went Kelsey, number one consensus. We saw Kelsey go anywhere from pick 2 to pick 12, right? Anyways, looking at Waller, right? I mean, essentially you have him right after Kelsey. So Kittle in some leagues, maybe Andrews, but Waller easily a top 4 tight end going into last season. So I would say disappointing season for sure. I mean, week 1, he looked like what you wanted, right? 19 targets, right? I mean, that game was crazy. Really only had one other game with double-digit targets, which is crazy. But listen, I think that the Raiders' offense obviously will be improved. You add Davante Adams, right? Should open up things for Waller and Renfro as well. Could argue you see a decrease in overall targets, but I do think that Waller remains about the tight end 4. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take Waller off the board here. Team 6, 2 running backs, a receiver, and a tight end. You could really go any direction with this team. It's a good-looking overall team, but let's take Patrick Mahomes off the board, and let's get that stack going for this team. Patty Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Listen, I know there's a lot of concern about Patrick Mahomes. I get it. But at the end of the day, it's your QB4 from last season. Did he have a disappointing year? Sure. By Patrick Mahomes standards. He still threw for 4,800 passing yards and 37 passing touchdowns. Most interceptions of his career, most interceptions since his his sophomore season was his rookie season at the end of the day, right? So most interceptions since his first full season at 13 overall, 2 rushing touchdowns as well. But really, when you look at the numbers, other than the interception uptick, they are not that different from the previous year. He is still Patty Mahomes. Tyreek Hill's out of the building. I get it, man. But I still think he's easily top 4 QB, top 3 at worst. So, listen, I get it. You had some scary games last season. We saw the Chiefs struggling. They still went to the AFC Championship game. I said it all season long. Do not underestimate the Chiefs. The Chiefs, there's no limbo in Kansas City. They are going to be just fine. Defensive coordinators, opposing teams are starting to figure out how to stop that offensive attack, but they will be just fine, right? I get it. Tyreek Hill's out of the building. That adds to the concern. Andy Reid's the head coach. He's one of the best offensive gurus of the past, 2-3 centuries. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best talents we've ever seen at the quarterback position, you could argue. He will be just fine. I need a sip of water after that. And if you can stack him with Kelsey, you sure as hell better do it. All right. Team 7 here. We got 2 receivers, 2 running backs. A couple needs here. You could look to QB. You could look to tight end. We could look at the best player available. I'm going to argue that's Deontay Johnson. Take another receiver here, right? Listen, we don't know who's throwing Deontay the football. 100% get it, right? Still wide receiver 8 last season. I love me some Deontay Johnson. A lot of consistency and continuously improving on his previous year numbers year after year. So I got no beef with Deontay at all. I don't really care who's throwing him the football. Okay, I don't love Mitchell Trubisky. I don't hate him. They might draft someone. They might not. Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins, both pretty used to the system, right? So I'll take Deontay here. This is an interesting team. We got a Vikings stack, Fournette, Hopkins, and Johnson, a need at tight end and QB. All right, moving on to team 8. We got a little Bengals stack. We got two receivers, 1 running back, and a quarterback. So let's take a look here. You could really go any position here. You could look at tight end. Well, we're going to go best player available. Right, let's take Josh Jacobs off the board, okay? Listen, I like me some Josh Jacobs. I know a lot of you guys don't. Top 12 running back in PPR, top 15 in standard. Missed a little bit of time. But look at these numbers, man. 2 games where he had under double-digit fantasy points in full PPR. I really have no beef with Josh Jacobs whatsoever. I get it. Under 1,000 rushing yards might concern you. But really, over the past 3 years, he has shown a lot of fantasy consistency. And I do think that the Raiders' offense is going to improve with the addition of Davante Adams. I do think that he will see plenty of scoring opportunities, plenty of red zone trips. So I like Josh Jacobs a lot, man. I got no beef with Josh Jacobs whatsoever, man. So we'll take him off the clock. I really like this team here. Mixon, Chase, Allen, Brown. Brown kind of the wild card here. Those injury concerns, and you got Josh Jacobs, right? So now it's probably the best point for this team to go with the tight end. There's a lot of direction he could go, right? Kyle Pitts concerns me. You know why Kyle Pitts concerns me is because he's on the Falcons, right? He is the wide receiver 1 on this team, though, at the end of the day. He is the only option on this team for Marcus Mariota and company other than Cordero, Pounder, and Cheese. So you could argue that with how much consistency this team already has, that Pitts is a great option. Hawkinson's still kind of in that tier as well, for good reason. Really only 2-3 games here under double digits. Some injuries, shoulder injury, kind of scary last season, right? But a great tight end nonetheless. So you could really go with either of those guys, and you could argue that Goddard, Schultz, Knox, even Gesicki, all in that same tier. Let's take Kyle Pitts. Let's say he is the only option for the Falcons and should produce a lot of productivity for that reason. Ronald, I do wonder if Jacobs is the workhorse he has been without Gruden in the mix at all. It's fair. It's a fair point. I just, year after year, I vouch for Josh Jacobs, and I can't get off it. So, we're sticking with it tonight. All right, on to Team 7 again. Here we got 3 receivers, 2 running backs, so there's a couple of needs on this team. We could go quarterback. We could go with another running back because why not? We could go with receiver here. And we could go with tight end here as well. Could really go any direction. Okay. I'm kind of torn because this team is pretty damn good. 3 really good receivers, 2 good running backs as well. Cam Akers available, James Conner available. I have them in this next coming tier. You could go quarterback as well, and let's do it. Let's just take Kyler Murray off of the board. Take another quarterback here. Listen, I do think that Kyler is the next quarterback to take when healthy, and especially starting the season. He is just an absolute animal. We usually see a drop-off mid-season going into the end of the season and a couple missed games, but listen, I think if you draft Kyler, you probably take a second quarterback late. But he's still 100% worth taking as your QB3 or your QB4. All right, looking at Team 6 here is a very even peel team, but they do need another receiver. So let's go ahead and take Scary Terry, T. Higgins, or Jalen Waddle, right? These are the 3 guys that I have in this next tier. Scary Terry making a little bit of drama. Washington maybe making a little bit of drama for Scary Terry. They haven't offered him a contract. He's in that bunch of receivers who are due for a contract and these, potential trade talks as well. I'm going to go Jalen Waddle here, okay? I think you see a lot of good PPR type, consistency out of him next season, right? 1,000 receiving yards, 6 receptions, 140 targets, 104 receptions last season. Top 14 in PPR, a little bit lower in standard at top 21. But listen, man, even with Tyreek Hill going there, I think that just opens up things for our boy Jalen Waddle. We know that Tua has that strong chemistry with Jalen Waddle. I feel very, very good about Jalen Waddle as a wide receiver too, especially on a team that already has Devonta Adams and a Patty Mahomes, Travis Kelce stack, and 2 very consistent running backs. So I think that's a very good pick there. All right, moving on to Team 5. You got 2 receivers, 2 running backs, and a tight end. But you got a little bit of, injury concern here. Austin Eckler, CMC here. So in my opinion, why not go with a running back that I feel very bullish on, and James Conner, who had just a monster season last season. I mean, you could argue that he should go before Josh Jacobs, before Saquon, before Gibson, even before Zeke, Fournette, or Jones as well. I do think that he's being underrated. We know that our boy Chase Edmonds is out of Arizona on to the Dolphins. So, listen, you guys know that I love James Conner. I know that not all of you love him, but you can't ignore 18 total touchdowns, 15 rushing touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns. Got some good work in the receiving game overall. Not a ton of rushing yards, but he just doesn't need it. His fantasy production is coming off of scoring touchdowns. So I think for this team, having CMC there, I think it's a perfect fit. Okay, moving on here. Team 4 has got 2 receivers, 2 RBs, and a tight end. So you can really go any direction that you want here. Okay, so this is a pretty even peel team. I mean, Kupp, Hill, Jones, Barkley, and Kittle. I think you might have a little bit of natural concern at the running back position, though. So let's take Cam Akers off the board. Potentially don't feel great about Jones, or maybe with Saquon there as a kind of a wild card too. I think Cam Akers kind of solidifies the RB room there, so I think that's a really good fit. Listen, I know there's a lot of concern about Cam Akers. Only played in 1 regular season game. Should be fully healthy next season. Should be. The Rams also really kind of had a running back carousel last year between Henderson, Akers, and Sony Michel. So I get that too. But we'll go ahead and take him off the board here. It's a great offense. Should be the RB1. A little bit of risk there. There's a pretty risky running back group we got here. So at least the receivers are consistent there. All right, team 3. 3 running backs in a row. 2 receivers. You could go tight end here. Go with another receiver. Another running back. Go QB here. Let's go QB, baby. Let's get the man here I'm representing with my jersey tonight. Let's go Joe Burrow. Listen, I really think that Burrow is going to creep up and up and up on draft boards. The more and more mock drafts we do, and the closer and closer we get to the regular season. Bolstered offensive line. Absolute monster. Ton of momentum. Great offense. Great receivers. Great run game. Let's take Joe Burrow off the board. All right, team 2 here. You got a lot of needs here. Let's go receiver, though. Let's go receiver. And couple directions you get. Let's take T. Higgins. If I can do this right. Let's take T. Higgins off the board. You guys know how I feel about T. Higgins. I think he's got a ton of upside. A little bit of a, you'd rather have him as your wide receiver in the flex, right? But with some of those games he had at the end of the season, I mean, I just feel great about T. Higgins. That's all I have to say. Same reason I feel great about Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. I just really, really like that offense going into next season. All right. Team 1 here. 3 great running backs, 2 great receivers. You could go tight end here, but let's go ahead and take a quarterback off the board for this team. Let's take Lamar Jackson, who hopefully can stay healthy next season, and if he does, is just as good as anyone else in the game from a fantasy standpoint. All right, bouncing back around. We could go tight end here, go with Hawkinson or Goddard, but let's go ahead and take another receiver off the board. This one could get interesting. You could scoot down here to Cortland Sutton. You could argue for Jerry Jeudy, but let's just take Scary Terry off the board. Whether he's with Washington or not, I do think that he probably will be, even if he has to hold out. I think Washington's really going to cooperate if he does want a new contract. So let's just take him off the board. Let's assume he's with Washington. Commander Carson can get the football to a wide receiver 1 at the end of the day. All right, team 2 here. Okay, so at this point, we've got 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end, and quarterback. So at this point, you're probably just going best overall player. Let's take DJ Moore off the board. Someone who probably won't have a good quarterback throwing him the football, but still had a very productive season in terms of receptions and receiving yards. Haven't seen him break 4 touchdowns in his whole career, but listen, I don't know who the hell's going to be throwing him the football, but he should be drafted at this point. All right, DJ Moore's off the board. Moving back here, team 3 running backs, 2 receivers, QB. Let's take a tight end off the board. Let's take Goddard off the board here. I'll go Goddard over Hawkinson. I feel really good about Goddard overall. Top 12 guy in terms of PPR scoring format, 830 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. I feel good about Goddard. We'll take him off the board there. All right. Moving back to team 4, we got 2 receivers, 3 RBs, and a tight end. There's a lot of direction you could go here. Right, you could go with a quarterback, go with another running back, but I think you probably just go best overall available player. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to argue for Cortland Sutton here as another receiver. I think this would be a really nice fit on this team. I think Cortland Sutton could end up being very consistent next season. I like him slightly more than Jerry Jeudy right now. So with the consistency of Cooper Kupp, Hopefully you could slide Sutton in there as a wide receiver too, then play Hill more like a flex player with that boomer bust kind of potential there. 3 running backs you can get you through and a solid tight end. Obviously looking to the quarterback position at this team. All right, team 5 overall. 3 running backs, 2 receivers, and a tight end. You could argue for a quarterback here, but I think this is a round where you start to see some quarterbacks fall out. You take a little bit of a breather at the quarterback position, and you could really go anywhere probably other than tight end here. I think you got 3 really good running backs, so you probably would look to the receiver position. And let's take Jerry Jeudy off the board. Let's get both those Broncos off the board. I do think that it's very possible that could happen, right? Where you see both of those Denver Broncos receivers go back-to-back because we don't really know who's going to emerge as the number 1 guy. So I think it's also a good fit with Godwin and Lamb already there. All right, looking to team 6 here. We got 2 running backs, got a QB, a tight end, 2 stud receivers. Go anywhere except for QB or tight end. I mean, you could go double tight end. We got some members of the Catch fan. Shout out to Jerry, who love to do that. It's fine. Running back's getting a little stiff, but we'll take Elijah Mitchell off the board. I think that's a really good fit for this team. I think would be a great RB3, especially to a team that already has Najee Harris and Zeke. We know McDaniels is out of the team, right? So maybe we see a downtick in terms of how much the San Francisco 49ers are running the football next season. But overall, Raheem Mostert's out of there. I think Elijah Mitchell really emerges as the RB1. And when he was healthy last season, he was. We talked about this all offseason. Even towards the beginning of the season, I was just scared of the Niners' backfield, the way that Kyle Shanahan deploys running backs. And then, of course, we saw Debo getting the rock a lot as well. But we really did see Elijah Mitchell play as an RB1. 3 games under double-digit fantasy points and full PPR, and they were at least 7 points or more, so not the worst, right? He did miss some time last season, but I still think he's right in this tier around a James Conner, Josh Jacobs, Cam Akers, right? I like Mitchell personally more than Cam Akers and even Saquon Barkley and maybe even Gibson. So I really actually like Mitchell. Don't think he should be on the board anymore. Ronald, I'll take Sutton with you, bro. I think we've talked about this. I would take Sutton as well. But I've always been a believer in Jerry Jeudy. So, we'll see what happens there. Like I said, I could definitely see both the Denver receivers going back-to-back or in the same round or in the same 2 rounds. So, team 7, we got 3 receivers, a QB, 2 running backs. Looking at the running backs now, it is really starting to dry up. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to start to slide in mock drafts, guys, if Melvin Gordon truly does go to the Ravens. So I'm going to play that hypothetical, similar to how CH is starting to slide with the addition of Ronald Jones to the Chiefs offense. Out of the running backs left, I actually like Damian Harris, Travis Etienne or James Robinson, Kareem Hunt, Michael Carter, and A.J. Dillon the most. And, I mean, Breece Hall as well is actually kind of an interesting pick. Let's take Breece Hall off the board. Let's do that. Why not? We don't know what team he's on, but we know he's more than likely going to be the most intriguing fantasy rookie at the running back position. So let's take him off the board. Try and sprinkle in a couple rookies here as well. All right, team 8 here. We got 2 running backs, QB, 2 receivers, and a tight end, a very good-looking squad. Let's take a receiver off the board here. There's a lot of direction that we could go, right? A lot of direction that we could go. Let's take Amon-Ra St. Brown. You might call that a little bit of a reach, but I really, really feel good about Amon-Ra St. Brown. Top 22 guy in PPR last season. I think a great rookie campaign, 912 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. You guys know I feel great about Amon-Ra, so I'll take him off the board here. And really with this team, probably at this point just want to take the best running back available and best receiver available. Even he got Josh Allen, he got Kyle Pitts. This is actually a very good-looking team overall. So I'll go ahead and I'll take Travis Etienne off the board here. Listen, you can argue for James Robinson. You can argue for Travis Etienne, right? Whichever one you guys feel better about. I haven't really finished, my overall thoughts about the Jacksonville Jaguars backfield. I do think we'll see probably more of a committee approach as Doug Peterson has a history of using multiple running backs. So Let's see what happens there. All right, Team 7, we got 3 running backs, 3 receivers, a QB. Let's go ahead and let's look to the tight end position. Let's take TJ Hawkinson off the board here. Just solidify the tight end spot. I think that's a good looking squad. Team 6, we've got 3 running backs, 2 receivers, QB, a tight end, a good looking squad. So let's go to the receiver position, see who's flying around. Listen, man, I don't personally feel great about Michael Thomas, but realistically, he'd probably go at some point soon in this draft, right? I'm going to take Elijah Moore off the board because we have seen him in the mock drafts that we've been conducting. Go essentially a little bit earlier, closer to, St. Brown and Moore moving up on draft boards at the end of the day, right? So I'll take Elijah Moore here. A really, really good rookie season. Listen, miss some time. I get it. Miss some time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. Could have added to these numbers, but a lot of upside in Elijah Moore, so we'll take him off the board here. All right, Team 5 needs a QB, but I'm gonna keep going that skill position here, right? Yeah, let's keep going skill position here. Let's take Amari Cooper off the board. Should be your wide receiver 1 in Cleveland. People are starting to feel better about selecting Amari Cooper, even if Deshaun Watson misses some time. We got the brisket throwing the football. If Baker truly does depart, which I think that if he doesn't depart, he'll probably hold out. So, listen, Cooper, 865 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. So, hey, we'll take him here as the wide receiver 1. It's a good fit for this team as well. Team 4 looks very similar to Team 5 here. Could go quarterback or you could go best player available. A lot of different options here, right? A lot of different options here. Maybe we go best player available, man. There's really no one like hanging around. There's one guy that I really like. And I'm going to take him here. If I can find him. I just saw him a second ago. Yep. I'm going to take Hunter Renfrow off the board here. Listen, I get it. Devontae's there. Top 12 in PPR last season. I still think with Devontae there, similar to Darren Waller, you're going to see things open up a little bit for Hunter Renfrow. So I'll take Renfrow all day, man. Just over 1,000 receiving yards, 9 receiving touchdowns, 103 receptions. Being criminally underrated, he's an absolute steal at this point in the draft. Alrighty, moving forward. Team 3, 3 running backs, 2 receivers. This is a good team. Quarterback and a tight end. At this point, you're probably going best running back, best receiver available. Let's take a flyer here. Let's take Mike Thomas off the board. I am not drafting Michael Thomas. I don't feel great about Michael Thomas, but he'd be a good fit for this team that's got 3 stud running backs, 2 very consistent receivers, Joe Burrow and Dallas Goedert. I would consider taking a flyer on Michael Thomas. If I had a team like this, but I also don't feel very good about Michael Thomas. But I know some of you guys out there do, so we'll go ahead and take him off the board here. All right, Team 2, we got 2 RBs, 3 receivers, QB, and a tight end. A good-looking team. Let's go ahead and take another running back off the board. And I'm going to go with James Robinson. We're going to get both the Jacksonville Jaguars running backs off the board here in the 8th round. How many rounds do we have left? I haven't done an 8-man draft. Okay. So, yeah, we'll get Robinson out of there. Listen, I hope Robinson's RB1. I've always believed in Robinson since his rookie season. He was a monster his rookie season. Missed some time last year. He's only played 14 games in his first 2 years. But listen, like I said, Peterson has a history of using multiple running backs. Urban Meyer didn't do James Robinson any favors last season. Very talented. I don't know, man. It's a little bit of a risk there, but I like both ETN and Robinson. Will Robinson start on the PUP list? That's a good question. 12 days ago, Travis Etienne ready to go. James Robinson is behind. So Doug Peterson said he expects running back Travis Etienne to be ready to go early in the offense for organized team activities. However, running back James Robinson won't be ready until training camp. Yeah, we'll see. It's a good point, Ronald. It's a good point. All right, team 1 here. We got 3 running backs, 3 receivers. Probably time to take a tight end, you could argue here. Let's take my guy Dawson Knox off the board. Let's get a tight end on this squad. And let's look around here. This team could really go to any position. Let's look at the receivers available, right? I like Devonta Smith. I like Hollywood Brown. Let's take my guy Darnell Mooney off the board. You got an absolute fantasy stud in my guy Deebo Samuel. You got an absolute consistent player in Mike Evans. You got Scary Terry. Why not take a flyer on a young player who's going to be the wide receiver 1 in his respective offense, coming off of 1,000 receiving yard year. Only 4 touchdowns, but you guys know that I feel good about Mooney. Hey, go out and get your guy when you can, right? You got 2 pieces of the Bears offense. Oh, well. All right, team 2 here. We got 3 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end, and a QB. So I think you go best player available here. You could argue for one of these running backs, but I think you probably go receiver here, right? With what running backs are available. Could argue Damien Harris, but let's go running back. Let's take another flyer on a guy. Let's take Kareem Hunt here. Started last season on absolute fire. If you're of the group who does believe that this offense will be improved with the addition of Deshaun Watson, even if he serves a suspension, then Kareem Hunt should be off the board at this point. I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm going to keep drafting, baby. Crazy or taking Dobbins. Ronald, how do you feel about Dobbins? You know, I mentioned this earlier on that we were kind of skipping over him. How do you feel about Dobbins now that Melvin Gordon's going to be there, right? Where do you see him going in mock drafts? Because I do agree that he's got to go at some point soon. But I just think that his value's dropped slightly, kind of like Clyde Edwards-Helaire has dropped with the addition of Ronald Jones. I think Dobbins and Gordon will be in the first to second. I don't know, man. I don't know if any splits are going to go that soon. It definitely kills Gus Edwards. Well, here. This is a team that's got 3 running backs, 3 good receivers, a QB, and a tight end. So let's take Dobbins off the board because this is a team that can absolutely risk having Dobbins on their team. So we'll see, man. It'll be interesting to see where they're drafted. You know, I mean, Gordon hasn't even officially signed with the Ravens, but for the point of this mock draft, you know, we're kind of playing that hypothetical like he already has, right? So we'll handle that this round. How's that sound, Ronald? Kupp, Hill, Sutton, Renfro, 4 really good receivers. Jones, Kittle, Barkley, Akers. This team needs a quarterback. Let's take a quarterback off the board. Listen, you got Prescott, you got Rodgers, you got Russell Wilson. Let's take Rodgers off the board. Pair him with Aaron Jones. Listen, Devontae's out. Still a top 6 quarterback. You're going to get a lot of consistency. And I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to last too long in drafts simply because his name is Aaron Rodgers. And he is an absolute beast. All right. Team 5, 3 running backs, 4 receivers, a tight end. They also, let's get a little run on QB. And I'm tired of Tom Brady dropping in mock drafts, okay? QB3 last season. I'm tired of Brady being a late round guy in our mock drafts. Brady should be off the board very early. Listen, at some point you're going to get regression. But I don't know, man. That offense is going to be playing in an awful division. He had one of his best seasons of all time last year. Let's just get Brady off the board. All right, Team 6 here. We got 3 RBs. We got 3 receivers. We got a stud stack at QB and tight end. I think you probably go receiver here. Looking at this team, you could take a flyer on Allen Robinson. You could go Adam Thielen, Devonta Smith, Hollywood Brown, Mike Williams. You could go with a rookie, right? A lot that you could do here. You could argue for Tyler Lockett as well. I think a lot of these guys are in a similar tier overall. I've heard that the Chargers might draft a receiver, by the way, which I think would be a very good move. I mean, I think that they have other needs, but why not just bolster that offense even more, which I think kind of hurts Mike Williams' value. But let's take Brandon Cooks off the board here. Staying in Houston, he's a wide receiver 1. You know what he can do. Davis Mills threw most of his passes last season. Over 1,000 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. He should not be on the clock any further. I think it's a really good fit for this team overall. Team 7, we got 3 receivers. We got 3 running backs. We got a QB and a tight end. Let's go ahead and let's take Melvin Gordon off of the board here. Listen, he's in discussions with the Ravens. I don't know exactly where we're going to be valuing Dobbins and Gordon. Ronald thinks it'll be a little bit earlier. I think it'll be a little bit later. Maybe it'll be a little bit in the middle of what we're both thinking. Maybe one of us will be right. I don't know. You're going to lose time. You're going to lose carries to Lamar Jackson, but the Ravens have shown that they can have more than one fantasy relevant running back. Be a little bit of a gamble week to week. We'll see. Will he sign with the Ravens? We'll find out. But I do agree at this point in the draft they should both be off the board. All right, teammate. Let's see here. We got 3 running backs, 3 receivers, a QB, and a tight end. So we can go back to skill position, right? I think they probably hold off at running back. Potentially go, well, this team's got 2 back-to-back picks. I think we take the pounder and cheese off the board here because this is a team with a lot of consistent players. And then we probably go with the receiver, the little bit of upside potentially, right? Maybe Allen Robinson, Tyler Lockett. Maybe not Tyler Lockett because, it's on the Seahawks. But let's take Michael Pittman off the board. Just get a consistent guy with some upside as well with Matt Ryan throwing him the football. I like that pick there. All right, Team 7, going back to the team that just took Melvin Gordon. You're probably going best potential player available here. Receiver. Listen, I like Hollywood Brown and Devonta Smith as my next available receivers, but I'm going to go with Adam Thielen here. You know what? I got to change that pick. Because this team already has JJ and Dalvin Cook. I got to change that pick. Let's take a flyer on a young guy in Devonta Smith here. You guys know that I actually really do like Devonta Smith. Going into next season in his sophomore campaign, 916 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. A year to improve, more chemistry with Jalen Hurts. Let's take him off the board there. All right, and we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Adam Thielen right off the board since I do think he should be drafted at this point. Started last season on a phenomenal pace, really. So I'll go ahead and I'll take him off the board here. Listen, you guys know that I like Adam Thielen. With Kirk Cousins staying there. If Kirk Cousins wasn't staying with the Vikings, I like him a little bit less, but we'll take Thielen off the board. I do think at this point he's in that tier of receivers and he should be drafted. All right, Team 5. 3 running backs. 4 receivers now. Tight end and a QB. So you can really go any flex position here. This is an interesting pick. You know what? I think naturally you probably see a little bit of a run at the running back position. Let's take a flyer on Michael Carter, a young guy, and let's kind of continue that trend. Let's take a couple running backs off the board here who I have kind of in a similar personal tier. Let's take A.J. Dillon. Let's take another running back here. Let's just take a couple in a row. Take Miles Sanders because you'll see this, man. You'll see in the middle of a draft a pretty big run at the running back position. And let's take a couple running backs off the board here, man. You guys see this every year, right? People start to panic at the position, especially as it starts to dry up, and you might not see 5 in a row, but you very well could. And it never hurts to have an additional running back on your squad, right? So Carter, A.J. Dillon, Sanders, Harris, Penny, I think all very realistic running backs to go at this point in the draft. Okay. Looking back to Team 1 here, we got, 3 running backs, a couple receivers. You could really go. I'm going to draft another quarterback to this team because it has Lamar Jackson. So let's get someone like a Russell Wilson. Kind of help out if you do have any concerns about Lamar Jackson being injured last season. All right, moving on to team 2. Got a tight end, got a quarterback. Receiver, sitting at 3 receivers, sitting at more running backs. So let's take Allen Robinson off the board here, okay? Listen, I'm not crazy about Allen Robinson, but the Rams have shown that they can help out a receiver on a new squad. So let's add Allen Robinson. Well, I know I do think he will be drafted. Like in 8-man leagues, he'll be drafted. So let's take him off the board. Team 3, 3 running backs, 5 running backs now. Holy crap. They need a receiver more than anything. So let's take a receiver off the board. Let's take Hollywood Brown off the board here. Listen. Top 25 guy last season. 1,000 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, should be drafted. So he had plenty of disappointing years, yes. But I think he should absolutely be drafted here. So let's take him off the board. All right, team 4. We got 4 receivers. Ooh, I didn't even mean to put A.J. Dillon on the same team as Jones and Rodgers, but I actually really like that. So this team could really go in any direction that they wanted to. Just literally. Let's go to a flex. Ooh, this is interesting. Let's take Tyler Lockett off the board. He's got to go at some point, right? Top 15 last season. Listen, Russell Wilson ain't throwing him the football, but he still had over 1,000 receiving yards and 8 receiving touchdowns. He should not be on the board. Let's take him off there. All right, team 5. 4 running backs, 4 receivers, tight end and a QB. Once again, go in any direction that you want. Let's look at the receiver position. Ooh, there's a lot of rookie receivers. You got Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Drake London, Chris Olave. Probably the top 4 guys. Let's take Garrett Wilson off the board and just assume he's like on on any team, right? He's going to perform no matter what. So let's take him off the board here. Try to sprinkle in a couple rookies. Team 6, you got your quarterback and tight end. So once again, you could really go any skill position here. What running backs do we have on this team? Harris, Elliott, Mitchell. Let's see what running backs are available. CH is hanging around. Kenneth Walker is a Spiller. Let's go ahead and take Tony Pollard off the board. Get a great handcuff to Zeke here. All right, team 7. Once again, go to any skill position we want here. Got your QB and tight end, but we got Kyler Murray on this team. So let's take a second quarterback in Jalen Hurts. With Kyler Murray having that history of injury, history of falling off at certain points in the season, let's get a great QB2 on this team. Jalen Hurts was your QB1 for a long point in the season before he had a little bit of regression, some injury issues and things like that. Still a top 10 quarterback last season. I really like that pair right there, Kyler Murray and my guy, Jalen Hurts. All right, teammate, we've got a quarterback and a tight end, but I'm going to go with a second tight end on this team. I'm going to pick up Dalton Schultz here just in case things get a little scary in Atlanta. Although Kyle Pitts should be a clear-cut number 1 option there. But let's take a second tight end for that team. Why not? All right, let's add another receiver to this squad. The running back room's looking pretty good overall. Mike Williams would be interesting here. You got a lot of rookies you could throw in here. Gallup wouldn't be a bad option. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with Mike Williams here. Why not? All right, team 7, we got a quarterback. We got 2 quarterbacks. We got let's take a second tight end. Why not? Let's take a Mike Gesicki with Hawkinson's injury history. All right, team 6 here. Yeah, you're just going best skill position available here. So let's take Drake London off the board. He'll probably be in a position where he can be drafted. So let's take him off the board. All right, so this team's got Tom Brady. Let's give him a second QB. Let's give him Matthew Stafford. Kind of 2 old guns, but if you're worried about Brady, give him back up there. Why not? All right, team 4. You got just about everything you need here. Let's take a best skill position available, which is towards this point in the draft, you're probably going to see a lot of. Let's take Devin Singletary off the board. Why not? There's a little bit of shakiness at RB on this team. All right, so Team 3 definitely probably needs to continue going to the receiver position. There's some interesting names, but let's go with Tyler Boyd. I do think that he should be drafted, so let's take him off of the board. 800 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. He's on the Bengals. We want him. We want that offense. We want pieces of it. Let's take him off the board. All right, let's check out Team 2 here. They got Andrews. They got Herbert. You got plenty of running backs, plenty of receivers. Ooh. Man, Dak Prescott's still hanging around. Derek Carr's still hanging around. Deshaun Watson's still hanging around. We're kind of at the point in this draft where, it's getting kind of interesting because it's basically the last round of the draft if we're going kicker and defense. And we still got CEH, Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Spiller, Chris Carson, Chase Edmonds, Ronald Jones, Ramondre Stevenson. Receiver, got Treylon Burks, Chris Olave. You do realize you control who was hanging around. Yes. What do you mean? Ooh, let's take Michael. I don't think Michael Gallup should be available. As a wide receiver 2 on that squad, let's take him. All right, going back to this team 1. We got 2 QBs. We got a tight end. Oh, I did not mean to do that. Let's change that. We're definitely not getting another QB here. Dude, I really feel like Chris Olave is going to be in a good position. Let's take Chris Olave. Why not? Why not? I feel like I should add... I don't think I can add. I almost feel like we should add another round to this draft. But I mean, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's most people are gonna have more than 5 bench players. So let's see who got left. I mean, Dak Prescott didn't get drafted, dude. I feel kind of bad for Dak. Deshaun Watson didn't get drafted there either. Running backs, Ramondre Stevenson, Ronald. I mean, for 8 teams, this is pretty realistic, Ronald Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Chase Edmonds, CH. I mean, there's some good names in there, but Alexander Madison as well. And 8 teams, this makes sense, though. There's going to be good players hanging around that would not be left around in the typical drafts that we do. 12-man drafts. Christian Kirk, Russell Gage. A lot of guys. Yeah, no handcuffs for sure. Pat Freiermuth, Hunter Henry, Gronk, and Zach Ertz hanging around. Those are tight ends you would not see. But this is 8 teams. So let's have a really boring round here. Let's pick a kicker for every team. Oh, I'm going to kind of actually look at these kickers. Try and make my co-host Steven proud here. And actually try and care about the order that we draft these, most important position in fantasy at. Where's Nick Folk? Nick Folk, where are you? Nick, it's late. I need to find you, bro. Yeah, Nick Folk's going off the clock here. Let's do a whole round of kickers. Let's take Butker. Even if you're worried about that offense not being as good, he's probably going to be drafted up there. All right. Okay. Daniel Carlson, just a monster season last season. This round is really for Steven. He was your number 1 kicker, so there's no reason why he should not be drafted here. So, for those of you who don't think kickers are important in fantasy, I get it. But here at The Catch, we respect the kicker position, okay? Okay. All right, so let's take the Bass man. He kind of trended downwards last season towards the end there, but let's take him off the board. All right. Let's take some defenses, baby. It might be actually worth kind of talking about some defenses here. Because we haven't really sat down and talked about what order we think defenses will go. Some of us don't even draft defenses because we know we're just going to stream them, which is completely fine. I think that the Chargers got a lot of buzz right now. I think a lot of people are going to be eyeing the Chargers for sure. The Cowboys and the Patriots and the Rams, probably all up there. Ronald, I don't draft defenses. Yeah. Generally speaking, I don't either. Yeah. Let's take the Chargers off the board because I think they're going to be that hot team. But listen, like over like the last century, the Patriots have been the most consistent fantasy team, essentially. So, from a defensive position, let's take the Rams off the board. I don't see Cowboys repeating. I don't necessarily disagree with you, Ronald, but I do think that a lot of fantasy owners are going to go out on a limb and draft them. I actually really like the Packers as well. Let's take the Cowboys off the board. Packers defense performed pretty well last season. When you look at number 14, yeah. I like the Packers defense. Like I wouldn't mind if I ended up drafting them or like streaming them. We're going to look. I guess we have a little bit of time left before regular season schedules come out. But obviously that's going to play a big factor too. Like who is the best week 1 matchup? Who's the best matchups weeks 1 through 4? So there's going to be some factors there. The Colts defense, Miami's defense, right? Plenty of good names in there. Titans, secondary sucks. So let's see here. Ravens are always team that's drafted. The Bills probably shouldn't be hanging around. Let's get them off the board. Let's see here. Yeah, Commanders I don't want. Bucks I don't want. Niners probably get taken, right? Let's take the Niners off the board. They're kind of one of those teams that always gets drafted. Take the Colts off the board. And we got one more defensive squad to draft. Ravens and Panthers, kind of interesting. Panthers at least have a good front 7. That's about it. Broncos, kind of a team that always gets thrown in there. Let's take the Dolphins off the board. And there we have it. That was fun. That was kind of hard to do. All by myself there. Those of you guys who watch this retrospectively, let me know how you guys thought, what you guys thought of this overall stream as well. Because I could definitely do more of these, and I think I could do 10 teams. More than 10 by myself might be difficult, but I could definitely do 10 teams. So I hope you guys had fun with this. It was definitely a blast for me, and it's just a good way to keep the fantasy conversation going as we are starting to slowly make that shift back to a lot more fantasy content. It is that time of year where we can, we almost had the NFL draft here. We can almost shift gears entirely to fantasy conversation, nothing else here at The Catch. So, hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I surely did. If you guys watch this retrospectively, let me know your thoughts on these teams overall. I thought they all turned out pretty good. Obviously, only 8 teams here, so these teams are going to look a little bit better overall. We did see, a fair amount of very good players. I can't show you who's still available, but we kind of went over them towards the end there. Obviously with 8 teams, you're going to see a fair amount of good players still left around. Some good quarterbacks not taken, good running backs, good receivers, good tight ends not taken as well. But hey, only 8 teams. So tomorrow night, I think I'll do a 10 team, see how it goes. Hopefully get more of you guys in here. And this was fun to kind of experiment with and kind of play around with. We had a great Madden stream earlier, won a MUT championship. So I thought, we get into some fantasy conversation for the night. So tomorrow night I'll hop on. We'll do a 10-man, one of these. And then maybe we can get a small mock draft going with some of you guys for Sunday night. And then we'll mock draft with Steven on Wednesday night as well. And we'll have, some sort of stream Monday and Tuesday as well. But I do want to slowly start getting into more and more fantasy content. So this was a good start for sure. So, hey, I appreciate all you guys who hopped in here tonight, who hung out in the chat. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Jerry, Mayday, everyone who came through. Appreciate you guys so much. Love you guys. Love this community. Love this channel. Hit that like button on the way out. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Go ahead and join the Catch family. Like I said, let me know in the comment section what you guys thought retrospectively of this draft overall. Discord link is in the description down below. Everyone have a safe and Emily. Why can't I say? Oh my God, I'm so tired right now. I'm just gonna pronounce everyone's names wrong for the remainder. Emil, thank you, Ronald. Now that I know how it's pronounced, I'm only going to pronounce it incorrectly more and more. So there you go. Discord link in the description down below, completely free to join. So hey, love you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and I will talk to you guys next time. Got nothing else to say, but thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And remember, yes, Sod here on the catch. And peace.